Hello, my name is Marita, and today I'm going to be talking about how existentialism connects to feminist and contemporary philosophical issues. I'll also be talking about how Descartes' epistemology shapes our understanding of modern day problems. Also, I'm using a textbook of Living Philosophy by Lewis Vaughan. So, in chapter 15, existentialism is defined as existence precedes essence. This goes on to say that humans aren't predisposed to any purpose or identity. Instead, what does define who we are is our actions and the choices we make. Sartre argues that this belief is both empowering as well as anxiety inducing. This is said because we cannot blame fate or human nature on our actions. Those are directly through our choice, which holds us responsible. Camus talks about the absurd, which is basically the gap between our hunger for meaning and the world's silence. Heidegger emphasizes authenticity, which holds us true to our own ideals and our own actions, our own thought processes, instead of following some sort of social construct that has been paid for us, aka paving your own path instead of following the one that already exists. And then these ideas connect to the ideas in chapter 16. And this is where women philosophers challenge the idea that women have this unchangeable, natural essence to them. Simone de Beauvoir, who was influenced by the ideas of existentialism, insisted that women become who they are through their thoughts and actions, instead of following what they were genetically predisposed to or cultural traditions. And then chapter 17 just brings us to our current modern day issues. So think racism, climate change, ethics, which also, like existentialism, makes us responsible for our choices and our actions instead of just calling it fate. It holds us responsible. In chapter 9, Descartes' method of radical doubt is a great example of an epistemological approach to modern concerns. So that way of thinking goes on to show of doubting everything until one thing becomes certain. So a really good idea of is I think therefore I am. That's the kind of thinking we're talking about here. So this is known as foundationalism. So this is the belief that secure basic truths are the foundation to all knowledge. So Descartes shows us that before we act, we should really remove anything that is uncertain. So unreliable beliefs, the subjective, and build our foundation on what we know. So in chapter 17's context, this is really, really relevant. So if you think about an example like climate change, that really goes to show we need to have some sort of scientific foundation, know these things are certain for a fact, and act on those factual certainties, I guess you can say, fact. Those are certain enough to guide certain actions, urgent action for our climate, So in consciousness studies with, as with Chalmers' arguments, I'm sorry, I might be butchering that name, Cartesian doubt really pushes us to think about whether we can actually know another mind's experience. And in confronting moral issues like racism or classism or global justice, Descartes' approach really means testing our moral principles for reliability. That way so that our solutions can stand on a really, really strong foundation. So all in all, existentialism really teaches us that we're not just some vessel predisposed to some purpose and instead create purpose through our actions and our choices and the consequences that follow. This makes it really important because it makes us apply that to feminist and global issues like climate change and racism and all the issues we're really facing with our political climate. Descartes reminds us that in uncertain times, we need solid epistemic ground before we can react. We need a basis. We need the truth, the certain, unquestionable, objective truth. So this goes on to show that philosophy isn't really abstract. It's a toolkit for living responsibly and really thinking clearly in today's world and how you act and, thinking about consequences and how that shapes who you are as a person, especially in today's world. So that's all I have for today. That's all I got. Thanks for watching. Subscribe. Bye.